Welcome to Storytime with the Roo Bus. Dan and Sharla are taking a well-deserved break this week, so I will be your host. I am Andrea, and I'm here with Delaney, Alex, and Lainey from the Cowlliope Crew. We're going to talk about how to survive GA car camping. But first, I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, and we're going to talk about our experiences at Bonnaroo.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Delaney. I have been going to Bonnaroo since 2019. We went there to go see Childish Gambino and Odessa, and it literally changed our lives. I've been going back every year since, including the COVID years. Just kidding. We didn't get to go, but I wish we did. I have the wristbands for it. But the last few years have been really fun, and we've been doing a lot around the campgrounds. We usually go in on Tuesday, so it's a long week for us, and we do everything from the plazas to all the stuff in Outeroo. And yeah, I'm going to pass it over to Lainey, and yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Lainey, and I've been going to Bonnaroo since I think 2022 was the year that Suicide Boys was there. And yeah, I think the first 2 years I was kind of getting my footing, but this last year I really leaned into the chance to spend time with a lot of different groups of folks and kind of going off on my own and reconnecting with old friends. And I had an amazing time at the Alice in Wonderland set. I don't think that anyone in this chat was able to make it, but I did because I had to make the sacrificial choice to leave Fred again and get into Where in the Woods before they closed it. And that was enough for me because I bought my ticket for 2025 before, I guess, that week that they have after the festival where they give you that period to purchase. I went ahead and bought it. I was, I think, the first one in the group, I should say. And I'm happy to see the line out this year. And so I'm really looking forward to be spending time with all these folks again. Alex, I think it's your turn.
My first year at Bonnaroo was 2019 with both Andrea and Delaney. I didn't get to go last year because of family obligations the week before, and I regret it, kind of. But I'm so excited to return to the farm and be back with my friends again. I'll never forget in 2019 was really the year where I had just met them and now they're my lifelong friends who I can't wait to see. I moved this year and returning to Bonnaroo is returning home with my friends. But, our queen herself of Cowlliope, Andrea, take it away.
Okay, my first Bonnaroo was also in 2019 with Alex and Delaney. But I feel like after 2020 and 2021, Bonnaroo 2022 was so special because it was so small. And that was the year that we brought Cowlliope, our inflatable cow, who is a pride icon. And as Delaney mentioned, we did Tuesday entry that year for the very first time, and we got there around midnight on Tuesday, and it was empty, and we blew up Cowlliope, and we dressed her up, and we brought her to the antenna to take a picture together. Just the four of us. It was me, Delaney, Alex, and Jonah. Mm-hmm. And then we posted that on Twitter, and Bonnaroo retweeted it, and then from there Cowlliope was iconic. Born, yep. Yeah, she was an icon forever. So yeah, it's been important to us to always go in on Tuesday after that because we got an epic spot and we were established and we didn't have too much traffic going in that day, although I do know that the traffic can be rough if you go in when the gates open on Tuesday. But now I'm going to pass it off to the rest of the group to kind of give a couple more tips and tricks for car camping besides just getting there early.
Yeah, so honestly, some of the things that have worked the best for us, we have a wagon. Those things changed our life. When you bring a wagon to the water stations, you have to go refill water a lot when you're camping. So when we go and get those, it really helps to not have to lug it all the way back to camp from the plazas, because that can be a little bit of a walk. We also like to use lots of tapestries and binder clips to clip them onto the canopy. The wind can get pretty wicked at Bonnaroo, and so you want something to really hold down your tapestries. So I feel like binder clips are really useful.
Um,
And on that, the stakes for the canopies themselves.
Yes,
We
yeah,
need to
stake-
stop seeing
stake them
flying
down.
canopies around
Stake
Bonnaroo.
down your canopies, stake down your tents, anything that you have, stake it down. Because you will damage.
Was that
the campsite.
22 with the windstorm?
Yeah.
And 23.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's been wind every year. Stake down everything because it'll damage your stuff. It'll damage your neighbor's stuff.
And you'll be canopyless for the rest of the time. And if you get rained on or in the sun, you're just going to be miserable. So,
yeah, and when you're camping in GA car camping, it is different than group camping in the sense that you're not going to necessarily be able to take shelter with your neighbors because there could be 4 people already underneath one canopy that are your neighbors. So you really need to make sure you're looking after your campsite and you're looking after not damaging your neighbors' campsites.
Yeah, or their cars, because the cars are lined up right next to you in normal GA camping. So when they're lined up like that, canopies, if they fly away, I've seen some nasty scratches on some cars without those stakes. So
My car has a scratch from the canopies one of our years, and I just consider it's Bonnaroo tattoo. It's okay.
I think we'd also like to avoid scratching people as well.
Obviously, yeah, look after humans. And then I also wanted to circle back to Delaney mentioning the plazas. If you've never been to Bonnaroo, they have these plazas or pods that are scattered throughout the campgrounds, and every single one has ice, water, and toilets, either regular porta potties or flushable toilets. And I always suggest the first thing that you do after you've set up your campsite is find the plaza that's closest to you, because that's where you're going to be getting all your resources. And if you do it right when you get there, you might be able to see through the traffic of the cars before everyone else sets up their campsites around you, too.
yeah, I know once like Tuesday night ends and Wednesday night gets there, the front of Bonnaroo really fills up. So it'll kind of disorient you once all the cars are there, which are really funny because it's like open fields, and then all of a sudden it's just nothing but cars and canopies as far as the eye can see, which is super epic. One of my favorite parts about Bonnaroo. But yeah, we mostly just make friends with our neighbors. That's super important. Once you get there, when you're all setting up, you're all getting out of the car at the same time. So you just go around and like talk to each other and make sure everyone knows each other's names. And
yeah, it's important to yell Bonnaroo as loud as you can when you get out of the car.
everyone knows.
It's important
Yep.
that you do that to properly set up your campsite.
Yep.
Um,
Couple high fives.
yeah. And then I also feel like maybe we should touch on why we keep talking about canopies for anyone who has never been to Bonnaroo, why it's so important to have your canopies.
Yeah, canopies.
So
Go ahead, Alex.
So I will say that our first year, I'll never forget that we all brought tents to sleep in. You're like, it's camping. You think you're going to want it. And after day 1, we were all sleeping underneath these canopies because it is too hot with the covering of a tent, which is why one of my best tips was when I got the cot for 2023. I don't have to deal with the air mattress. I don't have to blow it up when I get back to camp. I don't have a tent. I climb right on and I go to sleep whatever time of day that may be.
The cot
I
is a
agree.
game changer. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the first year. I feel like the first 2 years I was in a tent. Granted, I was able to set it up in a way that the morning sun wasn't directly on us, but this past year, I should say, 2024, I borrowed a cot because I wasn't sure and I was a little financially strapped. So I borrowed one, and my goodness, that made like all the difference. So even when we came back from the pretty light sunrise set and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning and 2 hours until it starts getting like really hot, and I probably slept for 5 hours, which doesn't sound like a lot, but considering the the weather and its sun intensity, it really worked out in my favor. So this year I will be purchasing one since I know I will be returning for as long as I can.
I know, and some people like to use tents and they maybe wake up earlier than anyone at our campsite, where so maybe they're not getting cooked in their tent like we would be because we don't wake up until 10 or 11 or 12. But you still need the canopy because there is no shade at Bonnaroo in the campsite. You're very lucky if you camp near trees.
Oh, yeah.
So you need the shade. Even if you have a tent and plan to sleep in it or bring it, the canopy is your lifeline.
Yeah, it's called the farm for a reason. It's just, fields. Lots and lots of fields.
Yeah, and paired with the tapestries too, it kind of, you can navigate the tapestries in a way that creates wind tunnels. So now you've got shade and then you've got wind tunnels. I mean, there might not always be a ton of wind blowing through there, but it helps a lot more than just sitting out there and roasting.
What, the panels that we use?
We have UV reflective tarps that we put on top of our canopies. And this past year was the first year we did that. And I would say that our campsite was easily 5 to 10 degrees cooler than it's ever been at any Bonnaroo. And we had them on top of everything. And then we had one positioned on the end where the sun would rise so that right when the morning sun came in, our campsite wasn't getting cooked. And those also allow for really good airflow. So
they're ventilated.
Yeah, so if you use them as walls as well, they're not going to block the wind, which is very important. Some people use tarps as walls, but because they don't blow in the wind very well, then you don't get airflow, which you need. You absolutely need airflow.
Yep.
And then we also have battery-powered fans.
Yep.
You can never have enough of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have tiny ones. I have big ones. Ones that recharge, ones that run on batteries, just so that you have some variety.
Not sponsored, but Ryobi for the win. Which reminds me to tell you, I haven't taken a picture to send yet in the group, but I've got the big one, the one that's like similar to a box fan. Yeah. Yeah, so $5 for 15 minutes and it's all yours.
I just want to do a disclaimer that we don't use a generator at our campsite. Some people do GA car camping with generators. Every tip that we are giving right now does not involve the use of a generator. So it is ideally financially accessible to most people. Just a disclaimer that we don't have a generator at our campsite.
Yeah, I bought one of the big battery packs, just like one off Amazon. I think it was like $45. And that one for the past 2 years has charged my phone and my partner's phone and all of our necessities.
You're referring to the Jackery?
No, it's like it's not a Jackery brand because it's not like branded because those are expensive. This is just like a little like,
but it's
knockoff.
The same.
Yeah, same type of version. Just has a plug and like the USB in it. So that you can just charge whatever you need to. And the last year I had to just charge it in the car and it comes with a car charger. So you just turn on your car for like, 20, 30 minutes and let it run. Also go into Bonnaroo with a full tank of gas so that you're able to idle as long as you need to, if you need to.
If you idle in your car, please make sure your fumes are not pointed towards your campsite or anyone else's campsite.
Mm-hmm.
And do not sleep in your car ever. Yep. Because then the fumes from your car will affect everyone around you.
Yep. What about camping showers? That's one of our
Yes, let's talk about the camping shower. My favorite part about the camping shower was 2 p.m. Now, my shows this past year were a little bit earlier than everyone else's, so I would go in a little bit earlier and find time to come back out before I went back in for the long haul. But it was like 2 p.m., so refreshing. This was the first year that I've had a camp shower where I don't even remember how much it was, but maybe $100 max off Amazon. And it
you're talking about the like that like housing thing for the shower, not the
yes.
Mechanism.
Yep.
Like yes, thank you for the clarification. It's a stand-up tent essentially. So you want to make sure you have space in your camp too for that as well. But we moved it away from where everyone was going to be walking a ton because it does collect water. And so you want to make sure you're not creating a ton of mud that's going to be trapped in on your tarps if you're someone who tarps the bottom of your campsite.
You should be someone
Say
who
what?
tarps your ground or uses rugs.
Yep, tarps are
Yes.
the best thing.
Yes. But it came with the tent part and then had to purchase the shower bag. Don't leave the shower bag in the sun unless you want really, really hot water, which I've been reading that tons of people love the hot showers, but for me, it's so hot the whole time. I'd rather something a little cooler. But that's the whole point was at 2 p.m. before I went in, you're sweating in your sleep, you wake up, it's hot. Take a cooler shower, if you will, and then be ready to kind of go in for that late afternoon, evening session, which I really enjoyed. It was good, refreshing. I know a lot of people are dedicated to the bit and they don't shower, and that's totally cool. But I will say, as far as sustainability in terms of your body and being able to keep going, that was really helpful. And sometimes it's nice to wash that dust off of your hair and your skin. And there are I've been reading a lot of tips and tricks on how to, if you have the shower bag inside the stand up tent for your shower. I've been reading, I can't think of any of them right now at this time, but there were a few that I had read of people being able to work the shower so that if you're a taller person like myself, you don't have to crouch down in the mud to take a shower. So, but that was really nice. And I think what was really cool that we did this year was, well, I know you all have done it, but me being more a part of your camp this year, especially the being able to talk about what other folks are bringing, I think that was really important. And we can, if y'all want to talk about that more, totally. But for this point, I brought this shower, and Delaney brought a shower bathroom, if you will. Which was nice for me personally, just like if you're coming in last minute or like in the middle of the night, you're waking up, and some camps are not really close to porta potties. It's nice just to be able to use the restroom real fast, be able to lay back down. You never really know how you're going to be feeling. So to have access to that, it was nice.
Toilet that you have?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I just don't feel like walking all the way there. I have bad knees. So like by the time Sunday rolls around, I am struggling to go. So I will just set up this little, like, it was $17 off Amazon, like a green little pop-up. And then it's like a little PVC portable little toilet. It's like a cross joint with like a little lid that goes on top, and you put a little baggie in there. And then there's this like silica gel that you put down in it, and you just pee right on top of it. You only pee, number ones only, and you just go, you do your biz, you put the little toilet paper down in there, and then you take it to the trash, and you double bag it before you take it to the trash, and you just throw it away, and it's totally chill.
Am I supposed to pretend this isn't cat litter for humans? Like, I'm totally about it. I think this is great.
Yes. You
It is cat litter for humans.
I've seen people use it on like the Reddit and stuff, but the gel just like has like a little smell to it. It kind of just makes it a little bit more hygienic.
Not smell like pee at camp.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Like, and I change the bag like literally every morning. So like the only time it's ever used at night, so it doesn't like cook in the sun or anything. So it's been one of my best hacks, because like the first Bonnaroo, I was so sad that we just had to like trek all the way to a plaza to get to the bathroom. But yeah,
because your neighbors are like right on top of you, so you can't just like pee right next to your campsite, because you're probably peeing in your neighbor's campsite if you're peeing on the ground.
Yeah. And you just shouldn't pee like just on the ground
where there's foot traffic. Yeah, because everyone walks everywhere.
Yeah, people where in the woods by the fence, don't lean on the fence. Just an FYI.
But to find what Delaney's talking about, you would just Google camping toilet, and it looks like a bucket with a lid, and that's it.
Yeah, you don't have to do the 5-gallon bucket. Like, there's collapsible ones that are easier to like fit. I drive a small car, so when I pack for Bonnaroo, I have to pack small things. But yeah, definitely.
Which kind of brings me back to like what Lainey was saying. I think we all kind of have smaller cars. I know last year was the first year Andrea had the van, but planning with your group is one of the most crucial things to make sure everyone can fit, but you still have everything you need. I know I have personally forgotten things so many times and known that, okay, someone in our group is going to have it there.
Yeah, always just like have more than one person agree to bring the cast iron skillet.
Every year.
Every single year my group has gone to Bonnaroo, but starting from 2019, the person responsible for bringing the cast iron skillet has forgotten the skillet, and then a new person will go to the camp store and buy a skillet, and at this point, every single person in our group owns a cast iron skillet.
My steaks come out fantastic now. Thank you.
Yeah, it's useful to have a cast iron for more than just camping. But it also helps people financially if you're in a group of people so that you're not buying things and then you show up and your friend already has them.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're coordinating with everyone that you're camping with, so that you don't overpack, so your car has room for important things, because first aid supplies are important. Just hygienic things are important for both men and women. Being able to have more than one pair of shoes is important for Bonnaroo because it rains or it's dusty.
Oh, yeah.
Or your feet hurt from one pair of shoes and you want to wear a different pair of shoes. So you want to make sure you're not overpacking because your friends might have what you need anyways.
I think a big
And you
part of
gotta
that too
leave-
is finances.
Right.
Like you spend money to get there, and you pay for admission into Outeroo, and then you do the camping pass, and that's the first stage, right? And then I don't know about anyone else, but I know I have, I work, and I know you all do too, and we have life in the way, and then it gets up to this point where it's time to really start making decisions on what you're going to bring. And so being able to talk about, I have this, I don't have this, but you have this, kind of really cuts down on the financial burden that it puts on each individual. And it's also, it's financially sustainable, but it's also just sustainable in the long run as well, because you're not bringing a bunch of stuff that, especially if it comes to food and condiments and things like that, that are just gonna, if they're sitting out in the sun, you risk the chance of, well, I'll just throw this away and move on, so you're wasting money at that point. And so I think that's important.
Since you were talking about throwing things away and sustainability, do you want to talk a little bit about making your campsite like environmentally sustainable, Lainey?
Yeah, I think that, as again, a disclaimer, every year you go, you get a little bit better. So I know that there are things that there are things that people who have been going for years and years do a lot better than I do and that we do. But at the same time too, just starting is a good thing. But I think this year we looked at, I brought clear bags. Let's just start with trash and recycling. Okay, so trash goes in the black bag, recycling goes in the clear bag. Whatever your recyclables are, great. But that was kind of nice. And I guess we did have a good bit of trash, but by the end of those 6 days, the recycling bag was breaching. So, that's something to think about in terms of coming to Bonnaroo and spending time with a great group of folk. There's a social aspect to it, but there's also the environmental one too, and trying not to leave as much of an impact. And so as far as camp goes, offering recycling and the ability to recycle is nice. And that is something that Bonnaroo does support as well. And they have a couple of different programs they run through Bonnaroo itself. I do know they have the reusable cup program. So if that's something that you want to take a look at and participate in, that's good. And I think I don't want to say this and be wrong, but I do think they have some engaging program. I think that program is engaging in the sense that if you use the cup program and you collect the cups, there's benefits as well too. It could be confusing
if you collect a certain amount of recyclables and stuff.
Sure. So, I know that's not everybody's first thought when they're showing up to a festival, but I did find that engaging with the festival itself, not just the people, but the festival itself, was really fun. It was another reason that I wanted to come back and participate again. And so if that's your jam, then that's great, and know that there is that option for you. So recycling at camp, thinking about your waste at camp was good. So I have 5-gallon refillable jugs, and they are very helpful. If you are a group that likes to cook a lot, I know myself, I tried to bring things that I could cook. Therefore, I have a lot of dishes. And so, having the option to have a 5 gallon access to 5 gallons of water at a time to rinse out dishes and possibly fill up water bottles, wash your face. So that was really helpful in terms of cutting down travel time and trying to locate water. Um, and then also, there was something else I was going to say. Well, we talked about the financial sustainability as well. The water bottles too.
That's what I was
See,
gonna
this
say.
was
Yeah.
yeah, this was a time where I had to think about like I really, really appreciated the water bottles that we had. It was really helpful for the electrolyte mixes and the energy mixes that I was able to just pour in something and drink. But I think too, like it got to a point where I know I was refilling the water bottles that I was using. So just trying, I think to even just be aware of camp sustainability is important. And like I said, I think there's ways to do better and be better. And that's something that I've been reading a lot about in the Reddit and everything on how camps are being a little bit more sustainable. And I think, that comes with food as well and what you choose to bring and pack to eat, and how you store those things. I found like, the first year I had Ziploc bags, but if you have a cooler and your ice is melting, the water is trickling into that Ziploc bag, and next thing you know, you've lost like half of what you planned to cook while you were there. So this year, I purchased some pretty decent Tupperwares that would float and sit on top of the ice and didn't let the water in, and therefore, that's something I can bring back home with me and use at home. But also, I made sure I didn't, soak my food, which was an issue I did have once.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just something to think about and be aware about because it's a really big festival. We go, have fun, we talk about peace and love, and I think that part isn't always considered when it comes to the festival life. So I think that being more aware environmentally is important, so we don't leave this major impact. And I don't know if anyone has anything to say about um,
Yeah.
what you bring into Cinderoo, like the things you can and can't bring into Cinderoo, and the glow sticks and all of that stuff is super fun. And I've been reading a lot about the light, the aspect of things you can bring in that are engaging and fun for folks to participate in, but not leaving this mess after you leave the what stage and the grass is glowing because of all the things that were left behind.
Yeah, and I think that they do a good job of having volunteers go out and clean up the ground every night as well. Um, at least like in the festival grounds, obviously not the campgrounds. They're not coming around and cleaning up after people. But in the vein of sustainability in your cooler, if you have any meat in your cooler, please make sure that you save money to buy ice at the festival, because if the ice melts and there's water that gets into wherever you're storing your meat, and then your water has come into contact with that meat and gotten to other things in your cooler, you've essentially just compromised everything in your cooler. So if you're a person who plans to eat hot dogs or hamburgers, which our campsite does, because that's something that's easy to cook, always make sure that you're budgeting to buy ice, because I can almost guarantee you that your ice will be melting. So you want to make sure that you are replenishing your ice and draining your water the whole time so that you're not wasting the foods in your cooler. And I know typically we end up bringing all of the food back that we don't cook because we're so on top of replenishing our ice supply. And we also
Which is a very full circle moment back to vouching for the wagon.
Yes.
I remember one time you guys were all taking naps at camp, and I took the water bottles, I got ice, everything, all in a wagon, and I took one trip to our closest plaza to like replenish camp. And it was so much easier because I was able to have 4 bags of ice and about 4 gallons of water all in one trip.
Yeah, the wagon is life-saving. Yeah, so we go in on Tuesday and we are there for the whole week. So we try really hard to be good to the earth, like take care of our campsite. It's like our little home for a whole week. So we clean up our trash. We have like little brooms to sweep off our tarps, and I bring a little collapsible sink. That's something that really saved us with the dishes with Lainey's 5-gallon spigot. Like we were able to just brush our teeth, wash our face, wash our dishes. Like that was seriously game changing for us this last year.
we also put dry ice in our coolers at the bottom of our coolers.
Yes.
And that helps maintain our ice level for the first couple of days as well. Most grocery stores are going to have dry ice. If you call them ahead of time, you can ask if they have it. We're in
Florida.
Most of us are in Florida. Sorry, I guess not really, actually, because Alex isn't in Florida anymore and Lainey's not in Florida. But Publix for us in Florida has dry ice. But I do know that most grocery stores have dry ice as well. You just have to call the location to see if they have it in stock there. So
And do not let your food come in direct contact with the dry ice. It will stick. You will not be able to pry it off from there. You want to put a towel or something as a layer in between. Learn from our mistakes.
The breakfast burritos this last year, which was great. And honestly, thank you all for prepping your food ahead of time in some ways, because that was really dope to have. And another thing was that I thought about while y'all were talking was the reusable utensils. So I bought like, because I camp, I live in the mountains, so I camp, and so I had access to that. But I brought reusable plates and reusable cups and reusable silverware, and that was another point on the sustainability realm that I forgot to mention. But the dry ice too, you mentioning that, I was about to grab my pen to write it down, because that was something that I didn't do this past year, that I didn't really think much about until you all, when you showed up, were like, we got dry ice. I was like, honestly, that's such a smart decision. Didn't think about that. Missed that in whatever Reddit forum I was in.
No, I think I saw that or I heard it in the What podcast, and we've done that since our first Bonnaroo.
Yep.
So shout out to the What podcast. I believe it was them. Those guys also said don't bring food that you cook, because they never cook their food. We like to cook at our campsite, or we pre-made the food that we would cook.
Yeah, this last year, I pre-made breakfast burritos for the whole campsite, which is what Lainey was talking about. And so I just fried up a bunch of eggs, bacon, sausage, and veggies, and combined them all and wrapped them all individually and froze them into bricks. And then we just slowly picked off of them all week and in the mornings, and it was seriously so epic. So
they were so delicious. Yeah. And also another thing too, because you mentioned meat, I think that cooking at your campsite's fun. I think that you need to take care of your body. You need to fuel your body.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it is uncomfortable when it's hot, but I will wake up and I will cook. And something I thought about when you said meat, Andrea, was something I did this year. Granted, I am a vegetarian, so the meat that I was bringing wasn't actual meat, but I went ahead and cooked what I had ahead of time. So it was Tuesday or Wednesday, I was cooking the patties, so I didn't have to worry about them going bad, if you will, were things to change and my ice was melting and having an issue. I don't know how that applies to regular meat, but I have been reading that cooking what you can when you get there is helpful too, in some ways, in terms of making sure your food's not going to go bad while it's sitting in the cooler. Gives it a little bit more life, and then it's easier when you don't want to cook and you have to go in Outeroo. It's well, you can just throw that on the grill and heat it up real fast, versus having to sit there and kind of wait and make sure that it's thoroughly cooked all the way through, which was really helpful.
Yeah.
And if you, for some reason, bring a grill and you don't have propane, or you bring everything but forgot your grill, always talk to your neighbors when you're in GA car camping, because it is a grid and you're on top of each other. And if you don't have something, chances are that your neighbor will have something. And there have been multiple times that we've had people use our camping stove because they brought everything except their camping stove. Or just be willing to let people use your stuff. If you happen to remember everything, which is an incredible feat in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Just be aware that someone might come up to you and ask if they can use your stuff. And that's just in the spirit of Bonnaroo, of sharing and radiating positivity. And I guess just being a good neighbor to the people around you.
That was really... Bonnaroo is the most beautiful community I've ever experienced. And I know that regardless of what you bring, people will help you out. Obviously, don't try and rely on everyone bring nothing. But it is a community that I've seen serve people like no other. It's such a beautiful experience.
Yeah, the first year that I went, I packed, and I had a list, and I double, triple checked it, and somehow I didn't bring the pots and pans that I had, my camping pots and pans that I usually keep in my camping gear, which is exactly what I brought with me. So literally immediately when I first got there, realized I didn't bring the one thing I needed to actually cook my meals. And walked over to the neighbors, and she had an extra pot, which was, she allowed us to hang on to it for that time. I wasn't doing the full 6 days. It was just the last 4. And we held on to it for those 4 days. She was really kind about it and let us use it, which was really, really helpful. So I think that was the first time that I was like, wow, it's like you're entering a village, if you will, and everyone kind of takes care of each other, which was really cool. So.
Does anyone also want to talk about, I mean, again, because a lot of people that listen to the Rubus, Dan and Sharla, do group camping, but when you're in GA car camping, even where we are, where it's crowded, it gets dark. So does anyone want to talk about, like, our light setup?
I would say that, like, the more lights, the better, that aren't obnoxious lights. You don't want to be the neighbor at night who has the bright LED headlights on their car shining into camp. I have found that my personal favorite are any of the ones that are the rainbow lights. Delaney had found us those ones at Aldi that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
They just go through a calming rainbow color.
Their tabletop lanterns, battery-powered tabletop lanterns, are really useful because they're like an ambiance, like a nice light. We also use like canopy waterproof lights. You can find them on Amazon.
They're
If you
string
type that in,
lights.
yeah, they're string lights, but they usually run off of like 4 AA batteries, and we bring extra batteries. And that's actually what we leave on when we leave camp at the night. So when we come, during the day, so when we come back at night, we have some light and we don't have to like fumble through everything to find our table lanterns. But those are our main sources of light at night. You don't want to be draining your phone battery with your phone light. You want to have some other resource. I also usually bring like 1 or 2 headlamps for walking and or setting up camp. Sometimes you get in a little bit late and it's dark when you set up camp. So you'll want to have some level of light in case of that. So that's something else I would recommend.
Or if you're trying to find your toilet.
Yeah. Yep. Important.
Fair. Yeah, peeing in the dark is lonely. I will say too, the string lights, I found some really cool string lights at Big Lots. So again, talking about finances, they were really beneficial too because they were solar powered. So they're absorbing the sun all day, and then you just push the button on when you leave camp. You're in, Outeroo all night. You come back in, and that was nice because I didn't have to worry about the batteries. I've been using them for 2 years now, plan to bring them again, and haven't had any issues with those. So I would argue that too, the solar powered, if you could find anything that's solar powered, as far as lights go, I would say that that's also really helpful. And we also, I think, y'all brought, maybe not this year, but last year had some, solar powered, I don't even know what you would call them, but they're like the staked lights that kind of go in the ground by your car. Granted, we kept tripping over them, I'm not gonna lie. I definitely did, and I don't know how many of them survived. But if that's your jive, it was cool to have like the lights on the outside of the vehicles. So when you're walking down the road, you could kind of see aside, because you can't always see your flag, but you could see the solar powered stake lights that were outside your line of vehicles as you trip into them. But I thought that was cool too.
I got those at the Dollar Tree. Those are the solar garden lights. They're usually like flowers or little torches, and you can just put them out in front of your car. And that way you know where home is when you're walking down the rows, because it's a lot of rows. And it's a grid system, so it's numbered. So you just find the sign that has the letter and number next to you, and that'll help you remember where you're going in car camping. Because
you're saving grace.
If you, sometimes it's hard to find those signs. If you remember to bring a flagpole and flag, I would also suggest setting up a flag by your campsite so that you can find your campsite, because you might be very far down a row in the grid system and you might not be able to find what row and number your car is on very easily. or you might be coming back from a long night and your eyes might not work very well, and you need to just look for the flag that is the color that you know it will be, because maybe you can't read the signs. So having a flag next to your campsite, or if your neighbors have a flag,
Community.
commit that to memory, what your neighbors' flags are. I know that our first year, the flag we would look for was no step on snake.
No step on snake. And that was at the end of our row, so that we knew which one to walk down, because we were like in the middle of a row. So on that corner, where now that Bonnaroo has like paved roads, you can kind of find where your block is, and off that block, once you find a corner, you can kind of use that as home base to get back to your campground. Because sometimes late at night you gotta go on a side quest and try to find home. So try to make it easy for yourself.
Yeah, I think we've been lucky that we've been on a labeled street the past couple of years, but it's not labeled for everyone in the actual grid. So you have to find your block. So having the flags or looking at your neighbor's flags is super, super, super helpful in GA car camping, so that you don't get lost. We had the shark flag and the fish flag and the lesbian flag this year.
Yeah. No lesbians. That's for the lesbians in the chat. I see you.
Before we finish this up, I wanted everyone to maybe talk about like one of their favorite memories or one of their favorite sets from over the course of Bonnaroo, because I feel like we should maybe talk on that too a little bit. I'll go first. Our first Bonnaroo, we camped near Plaza 7, which has the Grove. That's like pretty much the only tree area on the farm besides we're in the woods. But when we were at the Grove, you can kind of go in there and nap during the day, but at night it's really cool. There's just like these little statues, and they're all really funky. They change every year. But I remember the first like time we got there, since it was the middle of the night, we went and found those, and they were just like one of my most vivid memories of Bonnaroo. Just like the cartoon of it all. It's just so fun. And probably one of my favorite sets of all time. Chaperone this last year was freaking awesome. But Childish Gambino at our first Bonnaroo was like literally life-changing. He was so good, and that's the only time I've ever been able to see Childish. So that is what I got.
I already shared my memory in my intro, but my favorite set would probably be Odessa's.
Which year?
2023.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Would probably be good. I also really liked Lil Nas X that year.
That was a good one.
Or my first year seeing RL Grime for the first time was fantastic as well.
Alex, what you got?
So one of my favorite memories, and it's like weird because it was out of set, and it's definitely not my favorite set from Bonnaroo, but it's going to be 2019 when we saw Zoo. Because all of us were so exhausted from the week. We were done. Like, it was our first time. We did not know how to face Roo. And I just remember sitting around with everybody and just having that feeling of like, we're all going to be doing this again. And just having that feeling of like, this is what Bonnaroo is all about. And then a stranger who I said no words to came up, handed me a bubble wand, and walked away. And it, to this day, is one of the most magical moments I've had on the farm.
Lainey, what you got?
Well, I think you would all love to reminisce on watching me dance to Krungbin last year.
It's amazing.
I literally think about that every single time Krungbin comes on anytime. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I think that my history with Bonnaroo has been silly for me to experience, just because I think the first 2 years, I had a lot of stuff going on. I think last year was the year that and I'm sure you all would agree, I really locked in on the mission. So it was fun to start. I mean, whenever I listen to them now, I can only hear it as if they were playing it at Bonnaroo. Even if even if it's not a song they actually played in their set. I mean, I don't remember how long they played, but I remember like turning around and it was over. And I was like, what the heck? But I will also very quickly tell the story about Alice in Wonderland because you all didn't get to go and I did. So I had a whole week leading up to this moment. I saw White Fang was coming. I didn't know anything about White Fang at the time, truthfully. I actually don't think I knew that White Fang was Alice in Wonderland until Jimmy mentioned it at camp. But it was funny because the weeks leading up to Bonnaroo, for some reason, I was like, wow, it would just be so cool if Alice in Wonderland was at Bonnaroo. Sure enough, at some point, I don't remember if someone dropped out or what happened, but I found out that she was brought on like later on, just a couple weeks before, and she was doing the last set of the night on Sunday, in Where in the Woods. And I was like, I can't miss this. So, was at Fred again and had a friend of mine, who has been also going to Bonnaroo for a couple of years, and got her and her friends to come back to camp, loaded up on some trinkets and other things, and went in. And I said, bye guys, I'll see y'all in there. And it wasn't even like, it was like 10 minutes before the set even started. And they had sent out a text that said, Where in the Woods is closed. And so me and my friend and her two friends were trapped in there. And that was the most eventful, fun. Like, I talked to so many different people, and I'm not even doing the story justice on how it made me feel, because I walked out of there thinking this is amazing. And that was when I knew that. I think it's also important to think about, like, for me at least, I don't really even care. I think people put a lot of weight in the lineup, and I understand. But I think if you get to a point where it's the experience that you're going for, like, that's the nirvana that I have reached, where I'm like, I don't really care about who's going, because I know, like, who's, on the lineup, because I know I'm going to see my friends and I'm going to talk to strangers and I'm going to try new things, like staying up for the pre-light set, which I know you're all proud of me for. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. But I think that there's just so much importance on, put less emphasis on the lineup and put more importance on just the experience that you're going to have, because I can't even put into words like how all of that had made me feel. And it was an amazing set. And it was an amazing time. And I'm excited to be able to do that again with everyone. So, not to be the sap in the group.
Lainey, to me, I didn't go with you because it's always important to me, like, again, talking experience over lineup, right? I really like doing that walkout on Sunday night at the last group of people leaving Outeroo. And I knew it would be hard to get into Alice in Wonderland, but to me it was more important for me to experience the last walkout of the gates, with everyone, and you're leaving for the last time underneath the arch. So, I mean, I don't think I regret that, even though I didn't see Alice in Wonderland at Where in the Woods, which was probably like one of her best sets ever, but also at the
mirror partying.
Yeah, but also at the same time, that experience was so important to me. And I think that that's something that's beautiful about Bonnaroo, is there's going to be experiences that will become important to you that have nothing to do with the music that you're seeing at all. And it's just going to be what you make it, and you're going to find these moments that are just magical. And then that's what is going to bring you back every single year. I think for me, that was the Calliope stage, and then they got rid of it. So I had to find new stuff to find moments about.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I found them, obviously. So Bonnaroo is definitely not short on magical moments.
Yeah, and we commemorated Calliope with Cowlliope. So that's how we became the Cow Crew, with our Cowlliope blow up. She's the best. Yeah.
Does anyone have any other Bonnaroo memories they want to share, or any other camping tricks or tips?
I just love you guys.
Yeah, I love you too.
We love you too.
I love you guys. I'm so excited. I'm so thankful you all. Not that I had to ask, but you all had just really welcomed me into this space, and I'm glad that I was able to make the connection with Bonnaroo that I have, because it is something that I always get to look forward to. So no matter what's going on, I know that we're at least going to be able to do that. And I think it's a beautiful place, and I love you guys. So that's all I have to say. And I love Bonnaroo.
Yeah, we love love Bonnaroo. We love that it's brought all of us together. And we love Lainey especially for coming back after her first Bonnaroo being like one of the hottest Bonnaroos ever.
Yep.
It was hot.
Yeah, true warrior right there.
Yeah. I think it's just important to go with the flow. For Bonnaroo, it's so fun, and you're just gonna get what you make out of it. Like, just experience everything you can and get your body rest. That's the most important thing. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So
yeah, rest before you go to Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
And be hydrated before you go to Bonnaroo. And then when
and vitamin C.
Vitamin C is huge.
Oh my God.
You're gonna get sick.
Yep.
Vitamin C, electrolytes, and stock up on that before you even go to the festival.
Yep.
And bring hand sanitizer.
Oh yeah. Wash your hands. All right.
Okay, well, I would like to say thank you to Dan and Sharla for letting us host this week's episode of Storytime with the Rubus.
We love Dan and Sharla too.
Yes, we love Dan and Sharla.
Oh, and the Totem Foundation. Go and support them. TOTEMFND.org. That is their foundation. It's the opportunity to experience live music. So yeah, definitely go check that out too.
Yeah, if you have been to Bonnaroo before and you're just listening to us rant about our camping because we're amazing people, but you've been before, definitely sign up to be a mentor through the Totem Foundation. And if you have never been and you're listening to our podcast because maybe we're intelligent when it comes to camping and camping only,
Barely.
sign up to be a mentee where you will be assigned a mentor who can guide you through the marathon that is Bonnaroo, and hopefully they will also have some tips and tricks for you that involve staying happy and healthy and not melting into a puddle of sweat.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely explore the Totem Foundation through the Rubus. It's a 10 out of 10 organization. And if you will be at Bonnaroo this year, come and find us. We will have a inflatable cow. She will be wrapped in rainbow lights. She will have a pride flag bandana. She will have a flower crown. And she will have stickers to give to anyone who can come and find her. And we also will have a flag that says Big Ol' Bobcat this year, which is a new addition from my Halloween family. So definitely come find us, say hi, and if you can't find us, that's okay. You're probably on your own adventure, and so are we. And we hope everyone has a happy, healthy, safe Bonnaroo 2025.
Bonnaroo!
Happy Roo!